we are live. How you doing, Mets fans? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with the latest post-game segment here on the channel as the New York Metropolitans falter to the Washington Nationals today, not in their spring breakout game where the baby Mets beat the Nats, but in their regular game, the Nats take the Metropolitans by a final score of 7-3. In today's show, we'll go over the key takeaways and highlights, including Adrian Hauser's stat line where, yes, he did give up some runs and some bombs, but otherwise was quite effective, and we'll get into what exactly did he do today, what went right, what went wrong, everything in between. Shintaro Fujinami absolutely faltering today, and why he looks like he has established himself to begin the regular season at the AAA level. I'll explain why exactly that is in today's show, along with DJ Stewart, Francisco Lindor, and others having a little bit of an offensive breakout today. That and more is what we'll be getting into, along with some more thoughts on the latest news in Mets land that I'm happy to share with you all here briefly that I did break down in the post game a couple hours ago, where we did it on the spring breakout game, as again the Mets won that one with the baby Mets. So if you haven't checked out that live show, highly implore you all to do so after watching this one. And as always, shout out to our amazing sponsor on the channel at BetUS for all your sports betting needs. We had a fantastic time, myself and fellow content creators Robbie Hyde, we saw Ballcap Sports, Draft Neck Mark, Mike from Stark Raving Sports, all partaking and having a lot of fun with our MLB future streams that we did at Port St. Lucie at the official BetUS house. So I appreciate everyone that chimed into that content, signed up, placed future bets the way that we did. And now let's get into this one, breaking down again this loss to the Nationals today, because the loss means very little to me, but what I care about is what were the key takeaways. And some of the key takeaways are obviously, without question, headlined by Shintaro Fujinami. And I would like to start today's discussion by getting into Shintaro Fujinami while we're breaking down the game. But before I do that, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, as it is the easiest and best way to support the channel. Thank you all so much in advance. Greatly appreciate that. I see John in here. Thank you so much. Oil, D-Ron, everyone watching live on a replay. I know that, again, it's a spring training loss, so I know we're going to have a very small window of people being interested in this type of coverage, and I certainly am not covering exactly every single game this spring, however, but today there were some takeaways I do want to get into, and the previous games I missed over the past week, that was really just based given my schedule, because I was doing Mets content and MLB content that was more than just post-game coverage. When I was at Port St. Lucie, a couple of those Mets games, including Edwin Diaz's long-awaited return to the mound, I was doing short-form content there, working with BetUS more so than I was actually covering the game itself. So I'm happy to be back to cover this game for you guys. We're going to get into it here regardless on the results, but before I get into it all, I do have to let you guys know on some key updates today in Metsland. It's headlined by Kodai Senga being out for another 7 to 10 days before he really starts to throw again, before he starts to pick up on his program. This is Kodai Senga, who's now 3 weeks in to his initial diagnosis of his shoulder injury, is now being pushed, it looks like, a week or so extra here than what was initially intended. David Stern said today that he will be getting further imaging just to make sure that everything's fine with the development and the progress there, but they're playing it very safe with Kodai Senga, and rightfully so. I don't think there's anything wrong in that. I don't have an overly high concern level right now either. I hope that we get him back at some point in May, if not June. I think June probably feels more likely at this current rate, but more importantly, I just want to make sure that Kodai Senga is locked and loaded, fully healthy, ready to go once he returns to this rotation. Even if it means that the Mets have more issues on their hands for the first couple months of the year without him in said rotation, I think that's still worthwhile versus rushing up the guy and then bam, he's going to deal with an injury and might have him out for the entire season and then some. That's the last thing we want for Kodai Senga. So Senga, take as much time as you need to rest up and then continue to really start to progress in your throwing program. Hopefully get back on the mound for the amazing Stern later. But David Stearns did have a presser today, everybody, that I would like to share briefly with you all, because he was asked about the Mets, current options at DH, rotation, and bullpen. He said that those are all the areas in which the Mets are still evaluating. He made it clear that there's a reality where we get all the way to opening day and the Mets still don't have a decision for certain what they will be doing in the DH position and potentially back end of the bullpen. And he was asked about JD Martinez and JD Davis in particular, two bats who have been connected to the Mets over the past week. JDM has been connected to the Mets all offseason long. JD Davis was connected once he was officially released by the Giants. I'm happy to report that JD Davis is no longer even an option. Even though the Mets were a reported finalist for his services, he opts to go to the Oakland A's at a $2.5 million deal over 1 year, including a $1 million bonus. That way JDD gets extended playing time and it won't be utilized in a platoon option nearly as much as he would have been right from the jump with the Mets there with Brett Beatty and also to a degree with Mark Vientos at the DH position. And honestly, if you're going to block at either of those young talents, you better do it for a good reason. JD Davis is anything but a good reason, in my humble opinion, to go after and really limit playing time with the young players that you're still trying to find out what you have in them. Regardless on what the future of Beatty and Vientos is, the Mets have been very adamant on trying to teeter this fine line and giving them opportunities, while even David said it himself today in his presser that at times there is tension when trying to formulate the proper plan as to, okay, yes, we take a lot of spring training results with a grain of salt, but doesn't change the fact that, okay, if we have guys competing for a position and they're really underwhelming, then we should act upon it to a degree. So JD Martinez is still out there. I'm not saying it's a lock to happen, but it's something to make note of as the Mets are still active on that market. And now that JD Davis is off the table, it's further reason to believe that the Mets do add a bat. It's pretty much JD Martinez or nothing at this rate, unless someone else of a caliber that is worthy of the Mets trying to seek it becomes available, say, because he is cut somewhere the way that JD Davis was dealt there by the San Francisco Giants. But Martinez, again, I would absolutely love. You guys know how I feel about that. We did a video a couple days ago from the BetUS house there in Port St. Lucie about it. But right now, the Mets are still evaluating their options, rightfully so, because even if Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty do end up becoming what they hope they become, they're going to need ample opportunity to do so. And they also are guys that are, at the end of the day, not given a completely free pass this spring if they're very underwhelming or whatever it may be. So to have a caliber bat the way that JD Martinez is still available out there in the market, and the Mets' continued interest and lingering, and Stern said today that we will never be done trying to consider adding people to the team that'll better our club. That just further reasoning and understanding that, yes, the Mets at the right price point very much are in the market for some players. Whether it'll happen or not, again, is your guess is as good as mine. But if the Angels falter, right? If the Miami Marlins falter, if the Guardians don't even really consider him, how many options does JD Martinez have? That's the big question that I have, and that's why I think the Mets still have a decent chance now just as much as ever to potentially land the veteran power bat for their lineup. Again, not saying it's going to happen, but no one should be shocked if it does. I'll be pleasantly surprised, but knowing that, yes, this has been the writing on the wall and finally it's coming to fruition. Offense doesn't look, doesn't look good. It's spring training. Appreciate the membership for the 7 months as always, John. Offense hasn't looked great all spring. I 100% agree with you there. But again, it's spring training. I'm not overly concerned on that front as I am concerned on what exactly are the Mets going to look like heading into the season. Are they for certain going to roll with Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty or not? Right now, that's how things are looking. But again, David's words just continue to lead me to believe that there is a price point for certain that they will try to pounce on a player. They try with JD Davis. JD didn't want to come back to New York. 1, I don't blame him. 2, he stays in the Bay Area going from San Fran to Oakland. And 3, is given a more guaranteed role in Oakland to try to help his market value than he would in a potential limited option where he might go through the same deja vu scenario again if he comes back to Queens. And with that loopy swinging right through mid fastballs, no thank you, bud. Have fun in Oakland. So now let's get into, my opinion, what is a very important note from today's game. And that is absolutely without question, yes, that being in Shintaro Fujinami. As many of you know, I'm a big Shintaro Fujinami guy. I have been for a year and a half now. Yes, I know how wily he was last year, and yes, he was absolutely 100% Charlie Sheen wild thing today straight out of Major League. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The guy was cooked. But I'm here to tell you that while Shintaro Fujinami labored play today, I still have a lot of optimism for him this season, even though as things currently stand, it looks pretty abundantly clear that he's going to likely start the year in AAA, and he does have minor league options on his contract. That's what separates himself from others too. We all know Germany Hefner views him quite highly. He's spoken about it already through The Athletic. He said he has all-star caliber stuff. It is all there to be a true all-star closer even, but it's about putting it together, right? We've seen flashes of brilliance so far this spring, and we've seen flashes of failure, and today was far and away the stinkiest outing we've seen from Shintaro Fujinami. In the 8th inning today went as follows: hit by pitch, wild pitch, walk, wild pitch, wild pitch, walk, walk. Shintaro failed to record even 1 out. 3 runs would be charged on him, who now sits with a 13.5 ERA in spring training. And when you look at how good the Mets pitching has been all spring training long for the most part, you're led to the realization that yes, Fujinami's stuff, while it's nasty, given the fact that he's struggling to locate so heavily to this degree, it makes sense to start the year in AAA, have him work with that pitching line more, and then he'll be brought up when the timing is right. Again, could he still start the year in the Mets bullpen? It's possible, but I think today was just further proof that he needs to work on his command more, especially to get comfortable in the organization, right? The Mets pitching lab is something that they've worked so heavily on over the past year. Shintaro has barely even worked with it yet, obviously, because he just got here. I think it's going to take a little bit for him to get acclimated and adjusted before we'll see him hopefully blossom to the way that we want. And this is a Fujinami where you always knew what you were getting. Again, when he's right, he's one of the best relievers in baseball. Like, he has all the stuff. It's all there. When he's wrong, he's out all over the place. He's walking everyone and their mother. He's hitting everyone and their mother. He just cannot locate the zone. And this is something that he has struggles plenty with going back to his time in Japan in the MPB. He's always been known for this kind of wily reliever, but can the Mets get him right to the point where he will be an effective reliever for them this season? I have the utmost confidence in that happening, and I do think that, again, he's likely going to start the year at AAA now after today's outing. Because this, my friends, guys and gals, is a prime example of what matters in spring training. When you're competing for a bullpen, when you see a boatload of arms right now playing so well that they already optioned Nate Lavender specifically because they already have two options that are lefties in the pen, and Raley, that pitch today that we'll get into shortly, and Diekman, but also because Nate Lavender has options. That's a big thing. Everyone else doesn't. So Shintaro Fujinami's failure today honestly made the decision for Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns a bit easier, and really rounding out that bullpen with guys like Johan Ramirez, who absolutely has a great shot to get in there, Michael Tonkin, Sean Reed-Foley, Bickford on the outside looking in, you could say. Jorge Lopez is going to be in there for sure. All these arms that are either coming back from last season or ones that they picked up this offseason, a lot of them have looked very sharp this spring. And when it comes to bullpen battles, this is what stands out. So Shintaro Fujinami likely going to start the year there in AAA. But now let's get on to some positives today. And I'm actually going to talk about a positive that you might be slightly surprised by, everybody. And that was a guy that did give up 4 runs today in Adrian Hauser. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not overly concerned with Hauser today, it's because if the wind wasn't going the way it was in Port St. Lucie today, there's a solid chance that he doesn't have the outing that he did today. Especially the second home run that he ended up giving up to one of the most underrated hitters in all Major League Baseball, Lane Thomas. Phenomenal young talent, monster year with the Nats last year that no one talks about. He's going to have a big year for them again this year. Hauser is 100% through and through a ground ball pitcher. When he's at his best, he's working that soft induced contact in the infield to get those outs. He pretty much just hung 2 pitches today, and that's what cost him with the 2 bombs. Aside from that, though, he looked very sharp with the four-seam fastball, the sinker, the slider, the curveball, and the changeup. And when looking in particular about his stat line today, 5 innings of 4 hit, 4 earned run ball, 0 walks, 6 strikeouts, 2 home runs, 64 pitches. The 6 strikeouts stands out a little bit, even though, yes, I feel like everyone strikes out Joey Gallo at this point in his career, unfortunately, but Adrian Hauser is not a guy that I'm expecting to be an ace caliber pitcher for the Mets by any stretch this year. He's just a guy that we hope looms in that 3.5 north 4 ERA range, which is the case with most of these Mets starters, where they're going to give up the long ball from time to time, but when at their best can give you 6 quality 1 to 2 earned run innings, if not less, thanks to the ground ball. The Marcus Stroman vibes is what I get, especially when I think of Adrian Hauser. And just, again, a heavy ground ball pitchers. Not overwhelming life on the fastball, but just has a beautiful 5-6 pitch mix, and he utilizes it pretty well. So far, I've been happy with what I've seen from Hauser this spring. He has a 5.25 ERA. The long ball is something that he just needs to be more worthy. He needs to be more acknowledging of as we get into heading into the season, because he has dealt with that issue in the past. But we know Adrian Hauser at his absolute best, again, is a guy that can be a very solid mid to back end rotation option for you, and just got to eliminate that long ball. If it's something that is a constant reoccurring thing every 5th day, then of course I'm going to talk about it a lot more, and we'll go from there. As long as we can score more than 3 runs, 100%. Let's see there. Taylor signed for $4 million makes Bader look like an extreme overpay for a guy who can't hit. I did see that Michael A. Taylor signed with the Pirates. The Harrison Bader thing, though, there were more factors that went into it. The Mets could have signed Michael A. Taylor if they wanted to, and they considered it for a while. But it seems that they went the Bader route, who had a single today for the Mets that we'll get into in a second. They went with the Harrison Bader route also in part because, yes, he is not only a New York native, but he knows what it takes to play in New York, has a relationship with Carlos Mendoza, and is an elite center fielder. Just the bat is the biggest concern that we all know, and his ability to stay on the field. But we're about to get into a little bit on the key takeaways from today's game, in my opinion. We'll go through the lineup, exactly who started today, a little bit more on guys as well, whether it be, that being in Trace Thompson, Chi-Man Choi. But before I do all that, I do have to let you all know, guys and gals, about our amazing sponsor on the channel, as always, and that, of course, is our great friends
America's
at
favorite
BetUS.
sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer, a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
All right, guys, as you see here, we have BetUS and their hockey lines up for early Saturday games. And you guys know, if you don't know already, I'm a big Rangers fan. I used to have my own Rangers channel too. I still do, just unfortunately I've not been able to be active on it over the past year. If you're a Devils fan, if you're an Islanders fan, if you're a Flyers fan in hockey, and I offended you with my fandom, I apologize, but only a little bit. But my Rangers playoff against, yes, the Pittsburgh Penguins, a 3 o'clock game this Saturday. The money line is at 140. Easy hammer there with the money line for yes. I don't know why I logged me out there, but we're going to hammer the New York Rangers money line tomorrow. And for any of my hockey fans that love to get in on their sports betting action, highly implore you all to do the same, not just because I'm biased, but also because the Rangers are one of the best teams in all the NHL, and the Penguins are a team that will not be making the playoffs this year. Just by putting 2 and 2 together, that's all you need to know regarding that slate in particular. But if you guys like to get in on NHL in season action, NBA in season action, or MLB in season action, like the awesome future bets that we did over the past week on the channel, and that we'll be doing throughout the regular season, where we'll be doing our WardyNYM picks, props, and parlays, breaking them down in our post-game shows. Make sure you get in on the action by clicking the link down below. That way you too get a 125% boost with not your first, not your second, but your first 3 deposits. It is that easy. And shout out once more to BetUS, as always, for being an amazing sponsor on the channel. Also, everybody, apologies in advance. I'm going to go back to my main slide, and it's going to run the intro of the video for a solid 2 or 3 seconds. So just fair warning, you might hear the audio spike for a second, and then it will go down. Apologies in advance. Okay, there we go. So now let's talk more about this game and what stood out to me, aside from Shintaro Fujinami and Adrian Hauser, right? Because on the offensive end, there wasn't too much that happened, but what also happened was DJ Stewart, first pitch swinging. How you doing? Sayonara, you're out of here. DJ Stewart with a solo bomb to kick off today's game. He's batting 200 with a 606 OPS so far this spring. Not that that means all that much, but DJ is competing for a spot on this bench right now, and I think there's a rightful argument where there's a world that he does not start the year with the Mets. And the reason why I see that happening is because of a man, in my opinion, who has been solid this spring thus far, and that is Chi-Man Choi. Chi-Man Choi, who's likely going to be the backup for Pete Alonso this season at first base, and is likely going to crack this bench. He has a lot of the qualities similar to DJ Stewart, especially in their power, their exit velocity. But what does Chi-Man Choi have that DJ Stewart doesn't? It's more of a reliability. Chi-Man Choi has had peaks in his MLB career already. They're on another level than what we saw. DJ Stewart had a flash of brilliance last year, which was great, but he's also not a guy that you can really say is going to be a great defender in the corner one. The Mets have 4 outfielders currently ahead of him in the organization, and for the people that are saying, oh, Chi-Man Choi really is a first baseman / DH, I'm like, okay, but it's not like the Mets have this ridiculous abundance of strictly those types of options, especially after losing Daniel Vogelbach, Darren Ruffs of the world. They do have more flexibility in that sense, and it doesn't hurt to have a lefty bat like Choi, who has such a great eye and command of the strike zone that gets on base at a good clip, but also knows how to lift the ball when he hits it, something that we struggled a lot with when we were witnessing Daniel Vogelbach when he did decide to take the bat off the shoulders. For all those reasons and then some, DJ Stewart, while I definitely see him impacting the Mets throughout the year, I do not foresee him as an absolute lock to crack the Mets roster to begin the year. Also keep in mind that DJ Stewart, if I'm not mistaken, does still have one more minor league option. And the Mets care a lot about these options, especially in position battles where you basically have an abundance of riches, where you have multiple guys that are performing at a similar level, even if it's not at a great level, but they're similar, so it's not really easy decision make. Similar to Shintaro Fujinami, these guys having options is exactly what the Mets will be taking advantage of. So in my opinion, no one should be overly shocked if DJ starts the year in AAA, but it is nice to see him again showing the power first pitch swing today and making it known, because because, hey, the Mets maybe have a weapon there to potentially consider leadoff options that isn't Brandon Nimmo, that provides power at a strong, equal, if not better clip. I'm not opposed to that as long as it's going to amount to the success for the team. That's the most important thing. It's hard to envision better options right there, but I do see a little bit of what the Mets are toying with at the moment. DJ Stewart and leadoff. They're trying to do their best Kyle Schwarber impression here, 1,000%. That's exactly what I see right away, and I'm interested to see how much more they may be doing that throughout the rest of spring. Choi over Vientos, that may be true, guys, but Vientos is going to start the year with the Mets, and Vientos also should be given a solid leash. If the Mets are not signing JD Martinez, I want Vientos to play every single day at DH. Regardless on how much he struggles early on, I want him to go through that. We saw it with Francisco Alvarez last year too. Given consistent reps, struggled mightily, was one of the worst players in all baseball for his first month of the season, and then became one of MLB's best at the backstop position. I'm not saying that'll be the same exact situation with Vientos, but again, Mark has never had consistent MLB reps yet in his career. If you're not signing a guy like JDM, I don't care how underwhelming of a spring Vientos may have. He's still someone that I think you should just give the leash to, because if you're not doing that, why didn't you sign JD Martinez, right? Chi-Man Choi, you know what you're going to get with him at his absolute best. You know what he provides. So if, say, Vientos, you start with him the first month, he struggles so bad and is given every opportunity, and then you're like, you know what, let's start to commit to someone elsewhere, and Chi-Man Choi or whoever, I get that, and I understand that. But JD Davis, for example, is so mind-boggling and baffling to me, because it's like, why are you going to even consider bringing in someone that'll take reps away from guys where you're actually trying to see what you have in them? This is probably the one and only year we're likely going to find out for certain the futures of Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty in this organization. That's what David Stearns has been so adamant on. So make sure you stay true to that, in my opinion. Unless there is the exception of a JD Martinez, which I 100% agree. And also bear in mind that if you did sign a JD Martinez, it does not mean that you can't say, I don't know, how Mark Vientos platoon and split time with Beatty at third. Yes, I agree, it would hurt the development of both probably in that sense, but also for the sake of still giving them playing time at the MLB level, I see the appeal, while also having a bona fide, true middle-of-the-order bat as one of the best sluggers in baseball there, and JD Martinez. But that's where I stand on it for now. I would love Jordan Montgomery too. Unfortunately, I don't foresee it happening. I think that ship has sailed. I think the Mets pitching this spring, it was further reasoning and validation for David Stearns to say, hey, yep, we're likely going to start the year with this, and that's how it's going to be. I would like to make note, however, that Andy Martino noted on Baseball Night and NY today, and we may discuss this in a video tomorrow. We'll say, depending on how everything fixes itself out, because I was going to do a JDD video tomorrow on Davis. Now he's signed with the Oakland A's, so not doing that now. Might do a video on this topic too, but not entirely sure yet. But the Mets are 100% open and willing to dealing prospects for young, controllable pitching talent. As a surprise, absolutely nobody for a team that was connected to Dylan Cease, a team that feels like a great fit for a Jesus Luzardo, one of those arms in Seattle, many other options. Take your pick. Who knows? Maybe we will get surprised with the move before the season begins. But personally, it feels like if it's going to happen, it's to David's point that it'll be all the way to the buzzer. Like, it'll be all the way waiting until opening day, and then bam, someone's signed by then. So from now until then, will JD Martinez sign with another team? You'd have to think so, right? Why wouldn't he? But at the same time, JD Martinez is a free agent halfway through March for the same reasons as we've talked about before. 36, can't play position, not named DH, is a tremendous power hitter and slugger. We all know that. But the vast majority of contending teams in MLB currently have DH figured out. The Mets are one of the few teams that are pushing for playoffs this year and do not have DH figured out. They have their internal options, but are those the best options? No. Are those the options that they should 100% roll with? Not necessarily. It's something that, again, we're going to follow along as the rest of spring goes. I don't think I'm not writing off that yet. I'll tell you that much. Even if it doesn't happen, we're going to hear the linkage and the continuation of the Mets connected to these players for quite a bit now. Marlins have been connected, but the Marlins don't want to pay him jack anything. They don't want to pay him anything whatsoever. Marlins are going to be acting cheaper than the Mets are right now, 100%. Even with the Mets having the 110% tax where it makes sense, the Marlins are just schmucks that don't want to spend, because that's how they roll when they have the limited payroll that they do, thanks to their owner. So I digress, though. We talked a lot about on that front. Any other takeaways from today's game as we go through? Again, DJ Stewart was leading things off. He won 1 for 3 with a run scored. Francisco Lindor with a 2-hit game today. Nice to see for Lindor, who's had a very underwhelming spring. But again, really couldn't care less because I know that he's not hurt, clearly, and I know that he's doing all of his routines the same. So if he had the best spring or the worst spring, means very little. Just make sure you're locked in for the season. We all know he will be. 2 for 3 today with a run scored. Then we saw Diego Mosquera went 1 for 1 with a run scored today. Trace Thompson 0 for 1. Brett Beatty 1 for 3 today, had himself a single. Rylan Bannon, who was cut by the Mets today, him and Austin Adams. Austin Adams is the side armor, who had a nice outing for the Mets yesterday. And Bannon is this tremendous glove that we've seen so far this spring. And the bat's been solid too, but neither of them will be starting the year with the Mets as we see there. But he went 1 for 1 today, even after being demoted with the double and the RBI. Francisco Lindor went 0 for 3 today. Did not look good at the plate today, Albie, and that's okay. You're going to have those days. Marte went 1 for 3 today. Again, looks solid too with a RBI. He drove in the Mets' second run. Joe Suzy went 0 for 1. Chi-Man Choi 0 for 4 today. Choi did have a 3-hit game just a couple days ago back, what was it, March 9th. March 9th, when I landed in Port St. Lucie, had a 3-hit game that day. Mark Vientos 0 for 3 today. Did not look good. Also grounded into a double play at one point, if I'm not mistaken, or at least a ground out. JT Schwartz 0 for 1. Harrison Bader went 2 for 3. Bader, who again hasn't done a whole lot this spring, a nice outing for him offensively today, but did get caught in between first and second, trying to steal a base, so he was out there. We saw Ben Gamel 0 for 1. Joey Wendell 1 for 3, slapping the ball opposite field for a single, literally just a Luis Guillorme, and Luke Ritter, who did not have an at-bat today. Brooks Raley had himself a scoreless inning, and you know what he did? He struck out the side. 17-pitch inning there in the 6th for Brooks Raley, who has yet to allow a run this spring. Raley, one of my favorite acquisitions that we saw there from the Billy Epler era last offseason, for Kashawn Askew, who's a wily arm, who I think is great and is going to be awesome in the Rays bullpen. Still, though, love me some Brooks Raley. Nice sign from him. Jorge Lopez, another scoreless outing today. Shintaro Fujinami, we talked about him. Junior Santos and Phil Bickford were in as well. Bickford had 2 strikeouts, allowed 1 hit. Bickford hasn't had a great spring either. I do think he's on the outside looking in for this pen. And before I go further, though, and I will answer some of your questions, comments, and concerns, everybody, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. It really does mean a lot. Thank you all so much for the endless support. Really does mean a lot to me. But I do want to give a shout out to my man, Dave Kaplitz, in the chat right now. Shout out to you, Dave, you absolute beauty. Dave, thank you so much for the shirt. Shout out to Dave. Hooked me up with this awesome Mets shirt. It says, "Let's go Mets" on the back. I've been wanting to unveil it for you guys for a while now. It's an awesome black Mets shirt. I almost got myself this exact one, I kid you not, like a month and a half ago. And Dave was absolutely clutch, literally without me asking or anything. I feel like he reads my mind at times. So, Dave, thank you so much. Love this shirt. Really do appreciate it. Also want to give a huge shout out to Adrian Rabarab, don't want to say his last name wrong, for sending me this 1967 Mets 1967 Mets program. It's official 1967 Mets program. This is so sick. I went through it already. Literally, I hope it was Adrian, the original owner, even has the scores filled out for certain games, hopefully when he was attending, with Bud Harrelson and everyone else on the roster there. So sick. I cannot wait to frame this. I have so many old Mets mags and stuff that I need to frame now that I just don't have room for, so I have to try to find room for them. But Adrian, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Look how sick this is, guys. Look at the old Shea Stadium on there. Official 1967 program. There's even some doodles on the bomb. You know that this is like legit. This is the actual thing. It's so sick. And on the back too, you got a little dinosaur there. Put Dino Power in your engine. Nice little promo for Sinclair. You got, of course, your different Sig and cigar promos as soon as you open this bad boy. You got your Budweiser promos in there. You got everything. It's crazy how different were times back then. As soon as you open up, it's all the adult stuff. Even the Coca-Cola ad in this is like a thirst trap because they have a little blonde baddie just sipping the straw with two little mins on, drinking a Coke bottle that's in this big thing of an ice cube, that's nice and cold. Just everything about it just so fascinating to me. Again, 1967. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, Adrian. Thank you so much for hooking me up with this. I'll make sure that I take good care of it and get that frame nice. That's awesome. Guardian of Chaos, great moderator, great friend on the channel, says, Wardy, question, will Marte rebound this season? In comparison to last year, yes. Starling Marte will be more of 2022 this year than he will be 2023. I think that's been made abundantly clear by how he's looked all spring long. He just looks healthy and he looks normal, you know? And I know that Marte is not a guy that has had the sexiest spring by any stretch. Again, a 120 average, a 274 OPS. But still, you don't really put much stock into early, especially spring outings for guys like this. I really just want to see Marte get back to being the healthy, comfortable player that he is, who can steal you 30-plus bags without a problem, who can get on base at a solid clip, hit between the 250 and 270 range that you're looking for, if not higher, and give you anywhere from, 12 to 20 home runs. Hopefully more on the 20 end, but even if you do find 12 to 15, I just want Marte to be able to play at the level that we know he can play. I don't expect him to play for it too much longer now at the age of 35. I don't have ridiculous hopes for him this season, but I do have optimism on how he will perform based on what we saw through the Dominican Winter League when he was playing, and now here all camp with the Mets. He's healthy. He looks comfortable. The arm looks great in the outfield too. He's reading defensive plays better. He's better with his lateral movement. His hips don't look like they're completely locked like they were last year. There are things to be optimistic about on that front. Fans don't want a growing pain, period, for Vientos since it's the weakest position they've had in years. Oh, 100%. Yes. Carson, preaching the choir. Shout out to you, Carson, you absolute beauty. This is what I'll say on the Vientos front again. The reason why we're having more of this confliction and these internal debates at DH is not as much about Vientos' lack of immediate MLB success as it is the Mets' complete lack of properly addressing the position since it became universal 3 years ago. The Mets' inability to do that is what has been the greater problem here, as why there are many fans, including myself, that want there to be change. And also bear with me as I am trying to get my camera fixed. It got a little blurry, so bear with me 1 second. Okay, there we go. Let's see. How do you say we're a playoff contender with these many question marks? Try not to be negative, but here's the thing, John. You can be a playoff contender with so many question marks. Who in the right mind thought the Mets had any chance whatsoever making the playoffs in 2015, right? Pre-deadline, who thought that? Nobody. Then what happened at the deadline, then what happened after that, right? I think people need to realize that even without the Mets addressing anything more as things currently stand, they have enough depth that will help propel them. But the big issue is, one, how bad is the floor going to be with their pitching this year? And two, offensively, how bad is that going to be the floor of? How much do you buy into the first couple weeks of spring? I think you don't buy into it at all, obviously, but it depends on the fan and how you feel about heading into the year. How the Mets are currently constructed, I fully expect them to be buyers by the deadline. And from there, you just got to hope that they make the proper moves that they need to make to round out what they need to do to help propel them into postseason play. You do not need to be the sexiest team to make playoffs. We all know that. Far from it. You just got to be a couple games above 500 more than likely to sneak in that dance. And then from there, it's a whole new season, whole new ball game. There's only like 2 NL teams that don't have questions. Most teams aren't the Dodgers and Braves. Correct. And it is easy to look at them and say, like we're so far behind because of how far ahead they are. But let's not forget that they are so far ahead in classes pretty much of their own. The Astros, the Braves, the Dodgers are all kind of in their own class, that kind of thing. Then you have a lot of others right behind them. The Texas Rangers, of course, the Baltimore Orioles are now knocking on the door to be the next big thing. The Yanks are always going to be in that mix. The Philadelphia Phillies, and then, of course, you have the Padres that are going to be pushing that, still have a very talented team after acquiring Dylan Cease. There's a lot, and I mean a lot, of really, really good, talented teams out there. So nothing's easy when it comes to the Mets and their playoff pursuit. But I'm saying there is valid reasoning to believe that, yes, they absolutely can be a playoff contender this year, pushing for playoffs. Not a lock to say it's going to happen that they will make playoffs, but they will 100% be in that mix, and they are in a better position than last year. Because think about it. How much of a positive impact did Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander actually have on the Mets last year? Especially JV's first month and a half. When he did return from injury, he was shit. He was so Jekyll and Hyde. Good for one start, horrendous the next. Good, bad, snip, snap, snip, snap. as Michael Scott would say while talking about double vasectomies in The Office. And yes, I just said that. I'm a little unhinged. It's spring training. Who cares? We're having fun. Yeah, that's how I feel in regards to that situation at this current moment. Yeah, Tommy Pham did suck in spring. And shout out to Tommy Pham because he gifted the Mets a 17-year-old prospect in Jeremy Rodriguez who had an RBI today. And the Mets win over the Nationals and their baby Mets spring breakout game today. Jeremy Rodriguez is a nice little prospect the Mets got literally for a rental Tommy Pham. You can't complain there. Let's see here. I think they would sign JDM before Monty because probably last year's... 100%. 100%. I don't think Jordan Montgomery's happening. I'll be surprised if Monty happens. But before I wrap things up, everybody, I do want to thank you all so much again that chimed in live on our replay. Really does mean a lot. We will be back live tomorrow after the conclusion of the Mets-Astros game. Again, we're trying to get back more in a routine of this game coverage. And also, you can expect a video to come out earlier in the day tomorrow, more than likely too. I'm still figuring out if it's going to be a video that I pre-recorded from a couple days ago while I was in Port St. Lucie, or if it's going to be a new video on a new topic. So we will soon find out on that front. And also, let me know, everybody, too, how you feel about the player preview and projections. I'm not going to probably do as many as I was initially intending because we're already through the halfway mark of March, and there's a lot more players to discuss, and the reactions have fluctuated quite a bit. So if you guys are interested in that content continuing too, please make sure to let me know. I have no problem continuing to do them. I just want to make sure that it's worthwhile because I understand that with a lot of content that we do in the sports world, especially the daily space, it does have a short shelf life, and it does get maxed out on its reach within a day or two span at times because of just how much content is constantly pumping out on the channel and in the Mets space as a whole. So make sure to let me know how you guys feel on that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed. Drop your thoughts down below and stay tuned for consistent coverage on all things Mets all season long. 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, 2 down below at BetUS.